What's up, everybody? Apurva Terwadkar here. Over here. Yeah, right. Down to the bottom right. Yeah, I'm over here today because today we'll be talking about aptitude tests. Now, I did not prepare my own sort of presentation or stuff like that because I felt like it should be more about what aptitude tests are in general rather than my own personal perspective. So, let's start. First of all, this is the third week. We'll be talking about aptitude tests, and this is what aptitude tests are. So, what are aptitude tests? Basically, these are tests which are used to determine an individual's ability and potential to succeed in a certain task with no prior knowledge or training. Basically, aptitude can be defined as your perceptiveness, your ability to solve or deduct reasoning, and stuff like that. So that is what aptitude is, and aptitude tests are used to judge your knowledge about a particular thing or judge your implementation skills about a particular thing. That is how aptitude tests have worked for a long time. Now, here you can see the major thing is employers use aptitude tests to help them make the right hiring decision. Aptitude tests, as I said in the last episode or the last video, that aptitude tests are used very frequently. This is how, because in many circumstances, these are the very first step of anything at all. So if you're applying for a particular company, the first thing they do is they conduct aptitude tests, and that is how it works. Because when you show that you have aptitude for certain thing, then later on in the interview they will find whether or not you are applicable for this particular job, or whether or not you are just stuck with something usually. So these are a proven tool to identify those who are best equipped to carry out any given role. Basically meaning that if you are supposed to do something, as I said, you need to prove yourself. And this is one of those tools to find out whether or not you are worth actually taking into a company. Then there are multiple aptitude tests, but the most common tests are over here. So this is the usual category. Why the image gets selected, I don't know. Okay, so these are the typical ones. Now the ones I'll be covering which are very common are the numerical aptitude test, which comes under non-verbal as well many times. So verbal aptitude, non-verbal aptitude, and intelligence, which comes under non-verbal as well, and the personality test. Now let's talk about the non-numerical first, because this video is an introduction to what aptitude tests are. The second part of this video, which I'll be putting out, it will be talking about verbal aptitude. The next part will be about non-verbal, and the third will be about personality. Now, numerical aptitude. So it defines the ability of an individual to execute tasks relating to handling of numbers. Now, examples, I will be putting a few PDFs in the Google Classroom forum and also on the WhatsApp group, because many people do not even visit the Google Classroom forum. So I'll be putting those PDFs over there. But basically, this is what is asked usually: basic arithmetic, mathematical knowledge, numerical reasoning, and numerical word problems. So, for example, when they ask you stuff like compound interest questions, they ask you simple questions like ratio and proportions. They ask you questions like, if there is a boat that is going from one bank of a river to the other bank, and the flow of water is in this direction, then how much will the boat drift, and stuff like that. These are typical questions, and yes, I will be putting out question examples with their solutions, so don't worry about that. But this is how it works. Then mathematical knowledge, trigonometry and stuff like that, basic mathematics. You don't need to worry about differentiation and integration. It might be there, but usually they don't really have anything. In fact, up till today, I've never really seen a lot of differentiation and integration or derivation and integration problems in aptitude tests. So that's a good sign. So you don't have to worry about it. Then next we have verbal aptitude. Now, verbal aptitude is obviously using the written language. So there are paragraphs, and those paragraphs will help you understand a particular concept or idea, and then they ask you questions based on that paragraph. There are also grammatical questions. For example, they'll say that this is a sentence, this is a fill in the blank, and you need to fill in whichever word you think is appropriate. Sometimes they are multiple choice questions, and sometimes they are multiple answer questions. The difference between multiple choice and multiple answer questions is that multiple choice does not really have a specific definition, because you can choose one and you can choose multiple as well, but multiple answer means it is compulsory that you need to have more than one answer. So that is the difference. Now, in verbal aptitude tests, what exactly do you expect from that? Now, critical thinking. So they give you a particular scenario and they say you need to find out the solution to this. And then the options, the MCQs, are very tricky because they are very similar but also quite different in many, many ways. And unfortunately, verbal aptitude is something I've felt is very lacking, because like it is very unsatisfactory. Because if you think about it, no matter how much you try, your brain will always have a slightly better version of the options, and that is why it also works, because you have a better solution but you only have four options. So how do you choose something that sticks to your or adheres to your idea but also make sure it's part of those four? That is very important, and that is why it also kind of works but is still sort of unsatisfactory for me. Deductive reasoning, they give you small hints and clues and stuff like that, and they ask you to find out something. So for example, A and B are somebody's C, and C and D are somebody's A, and blah 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 blah. So who is who's who? And those, I hate those questions, but they exist and it's fun. It's somehow fun. Homophones and all of that, that comes under English grammar. Homophones, they sound the same. Verbal reasoning is more of the same, as I said, A, B, B, C, C, D, and stuff like that. Verbal coherence and cohesion, I have no idea what that is. Let's check that out first. So, coherence and cohesion are used to describe properties of written text. Is the glue that sticks a sentence. Oh, okay, like that. Achha, okay, okay, cool. So, basically, sentence joiners and the basic understandability of a sentence. That is what coherence and cohesion means. Why do they use such crazy words for that? I mean, it's good to have a good vocabulary, but no reason. Anyway, vocabulary is also a main important factor. They give you like 5 to 6 different words, and they say which of these words is fitting this definition or this the description, and then that is how you find out how much you know. Word analogy, word relationships. Word relationships is basically if A is to B, this is a relationship, then in a similar way C is to D. So you have to find either B or D or A and C, whichever one they want to. But this is how word relationships work. And reading comprehension, large paragraphs with questions beneath them. That is how it all works. So these are usually used to test the practical verbal skills, so for administrative roles and stuff like that. So if you're going into management, or if you want to become a manager at some point, or if you want to be in a leader position, you need to know how to talk to people, you need to know how to handle situations verbally, talking things out instead of going and fighting violently, which is something that people need to understand in current times. That even if you don't agree with something, you need to solve it and you need to sort it out using your mouth. And also, please, just because I have said use your mouth, don't go and curse at somebody. Use it sensibly. Next one is non-verbal. So this is the typical, mirror image and all of that. The intelligence tests that we used to have in scholarship and stuff like that. This is very similar to that. So abstract reasoning, inductive reasoning, diagrammatic. So we have the Venn diagrams. We have the patterns where it's like a triangle and they have separate numbers on the triangles and circles. And then in that circle, the numbers are placed. And then those numbers, you have to find out one missing number from the following. Non-verbal analogy is where, as I said, A is to B, B is to C. That also comes as a part of this. Spatial ability is where you have a space For example, the northwest kind of thing. So he walks north, then he turns left, and he walks this much left and stuff like that. It's not necessarily just that. If you want, I can give you a much more detailed exhibition of what that is. Okay, so spatial ability, it is the capacity to understand and remember spatial relations among objects and stuff like that. So, cubes, you are given a pattern that is folded into a cube, paper folding and stuff like that. Okay, so it's not the north and stuff. It is where, you're given mirroring of objects, you are given uh, placements. Sometimes it's also where you have multiple people sitting on a table and you have to make sure you arrange them properly and stuff like that. That also sometimes comes as part of that. So yeah, this is it. I'll be putting all the links in the forum, so don't worry about that. And finally, personality test, because that is what I'll be conducting. Okay, so personality test. A personality test, well, before even I look at the definition, let me tell you a basic understanding of what a personality test is. People test your personality based on multiple factors. So whether it is emergency situation, how you'll react in that, how you will react in certain situations in real life, how you understand what facts over fiction are and stuff like that. So basically your personality as a person, how it is, that is what this test is. So let's see what they say. A personality test is a method of accurately and consistently measuring personality characteristics. So मोठे मोठे शब्द, same thing. Types of personality tests, there are many. These don't actually, like, you don't need to understand what types they are. You can read them later on. The Myers-Briggs type test, the 16 personality factor questionnaire. This is a more, common category. It's like, this is the one that I'll probably be using, or I'll be using the big five personality test, this one. But mostly you don't really need to know that. And also one more thing, can you prepare for a personality test? Not really. Unlike most aptitude tests, there are no right or wrong answers in personality tests, and generally there's no perfect personality type. Trying to fake a personality test is very hard and is definitely not recommended. So what that means is, and this is something I've actually experienced on my own, a personality test has a very short amount of time per question. That means that when you are giving a personality test, you have to immediately give the first answer that comes to your mind. That means that whenever you give this personality test, you will never ever. So they have a free personality test here. You don't even have to sign up and stuff like that. So I will be using this personality test. And what happens is, if you try to fake a personality test, you're coming up with a perfect answer in your mind, and that usually takes time. And that time makes you switch to the next question. And time based answers are very important. And also, what answer you choose is important, because personality test decides how you are. So if I conduct a personality test and I'm part of a company and I'm hiring you for something and everything is good, you are an A1 student, you are the best at everything, you're even fun, you are fun, charismatic, you're funny, you are interesting and all of that, you're doing a lot of things, and yet your personality is very arrogant, you have no appreciation whatsoever for somebody, you have no gratitude, you have no acceptance of something. If you go wrong, then I would never hire you. And that is what a personality test helps me understand. So this is what I'll be doing. And that's it. This is just an introduction. This is like, there's a lot. You can sign up if you want, but this is not something I'm going to recommend, because I'll be giving my own version of most of the aptitude tests, not the personality test. This will be from here. That's it. Let's see. Let's see what happens with the rest of this. This is just an introductory session. I'll talk about verbal aptitude and non-verbal aptitude in a separate video by itself. That's it for this video. Bye.